My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this is News from the Can. Little shout out to Smarter Every Day. This video is called Why Your Newsfeed Sucks. And it's right on time because, this is one of my pet peeves, my newsfeed. And it's been a little bit better lately. And some of that has to do with the things that we share and like and stuff like that. And Google tries to figure out what your thing is and spoon feed that to you. But me, I like to see diverse opinions. And I wish that there was a widget that Google had, or Google in general, or any of these where you could just get an actual random news feed. What I really want is breaking shit, and from whoever. But what he's talking about here is that this is a race to the. He's talking about a race to the bottom phenomenon on the internet in general, but you can really see it on YouTube, where the OODA loop is something that, and let me see if I can find it, Colonel John Boyd, who was an Air Force pilot, I believe, back in the 50s, came up with the OODA loop, which is observe, orient, decide, and act. And because he's talking about how competitive it is in the news feed business, in the, whether you're doing YouTube videos or whatever, when you see something, and I see stuff all the time, and I think, well, shit, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Should I make a video about this now? But I haven't really had time to dig into it and verify it and stuff like that. And that can take a lot of work. Some outfits like Philip DeFranco, for example, he's got the money to pay people to vet material, to do research. He's got researchers, and that's totally valuable. But if you're like a lone dog, if you're the only person operating your YouTube channel, and you've got to do all your own research, and you've got to write this stuff so that it sounds like it's cogent, so that it's focused, organized, developed, and coherent. You know what I mean? And you can figure out, you've got to be able to figure out whether what you're looking at is valuable, whether anybody gives a shit about it, and whether it's true. To be able to vet that stuff, that's not that easy. It might take a minute. It might take a while. It might take all night. And you've already been up all night. I'm telling you, having a YouTube channel is a lot of work. If you're not into work, just forget about it. It's not, it can be fun, but it's a lot of work if you're going to do it right. And, I just put, when I do videos, I put my links up in my description, and I throw as much stuff up there. I don't necessarily vet my stuff that much. You can just see where I got it from. And because I expect, I implore people actually to think for themselves. Do your own research. That's what I always say. Do your own research and think for yourself. But what he's saying in here is that the situation that we have now is because of a race to the bottom. But here's the thing. This is nothing new. The race to the bottom on the internet nowadays is just more of the same that it's been for a really long time. I think the sweet spot in journalism was probably back in the 60s or the 70s. Might have been back in the 70s. In fact, they have this thing where, and I don't remember the woman's name here. This is hashtag is this legit? Hashtag is this legit? And this is from @MediaWise, Pointer Institute. And who knows about these guys, the actual MediaWise? But anyway, one of the things that they're vetting is there's a picture of Bridenstine and what's his face, the Washington Post journalist who uncovered the Watergate scandal. They're sitting in front of a TV set that has Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon is on the TV. She wants to verify if what you're seeing on the television screen is not photoshopped. It's not Richard Nixon photoshopped on the television. Well, the thing that's being conveyed, you can allow for a certain amount of Photoshop. I've Photoshopped stuff on my channel to sort of, to make thumbnails and stuff, to make a point. But it's done so in such a way. My Photoshopping is kind of sort of amateurish. It's done in a way so that you can kind of see that it's photoshopped. It's not meant to trick you. It's just supposed to be, snappy. It's to put ideas together. If Woodward and Bernstein were watching Captain Kangaroo, you know what I mean? Yes, right. And you superimposed Richard Nixon's face on the television instead of, Captain Kangaroo or Mr. Green Jeans or whatever, and you know what I'm saying? Then that's a small, we can live with that. And my whole point is that, a lot of people are really, really taxed for time. And it comes down to, individuals have to do some critical thinking and are doing their own critical thinking. And that's not a bad thing. Where we are now is not really that much different than it's always ever been. Newspapers, especially small town newspapers, have been known to take liberties. And small time television stations and, Fox News, for God's sake, it's schlock. There's a movie that came out with Jake Gyllenhaal, Nightcrawler, that's all about that. Television capturing the images, the most salacious images that you can find, because if it bleeds, it leads. People want to see, they want to see that crap. Media ultimately becomes a race to the bottom. And so the thing he's talking about, the OODA loop, people skip this step. They skip the verification step. There it is. Observe, verify, write, and publish. So that's your OODA loop or your OVWP. And that's what, that's what legitimate people should really try to do. The verification process can be difficult. And a lot of people just sort of kind of, they look at it and think, well, it's probably true. I've done that before. That's probably true. And just shoot it down the line and tell people, hey, I don't really know if that's true. You tell me. Tell me in the comments below if you think that this is really true or not. I mean, you could do that. Or say, this is unverified. I haven't been able to verify this. It looks juicy. But yeah, it's true. You've got to be fast. You've got to be, first on your block to talk about something. I see stuff all the time, though, that I pass on because I'm not really sure what's going on. And the problem is, yeah, it's true. It's true. You can be rewarded for being first, but you can also be punished. You can be punished for passing stuff on that is that's biased or passing stuff on from the wrong people. There's something called there's a website called I believe it's called Stormfront. That's like a white supremacy thing. And I've actually shared stuff from that a few times, not knowing that Stormfront's like a white supremacy thing, And people are like, oh yeah, he was sharing stuff. It's because I didn't know where it came from. I don't know who it is. But it was interesting, and it looked like it ought to. I just used to go out there and throw shit around, and that's the way. That's why people are. They think, well, we'll just throw it around, and it's, whether it's really true or not, who knows. But people are clamping down on that, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. This is not a bad spot to be in. Because, like I said, like I was talking about earlier, news outlets, especially small-town newspapers and things like that, they just sort of, they run with some salacious stuff with the police report or whatever, and the police report could be wrong. I mean, it could just be, and I'm telling you, I know this from practical experience, that police reports can be wrong. Or they can be, misquoted, and if you got some poor schmuck sitting in the county jail, that, there's an accidental, death of some sort, and some poor schmuck is sitting in the county jail, and they don't have any money, they don't really have any recourse. You can just run those motherfuckers over, and that's a crime. I mean, that's some true crime. Poor people are, there's probably a reasonable story to a reasonable explanation for half of the, crazy stuff that you hear about in the news. that it's either misreported or there's some reasonable explanation for it. It looks terrible from the outside, but that's because, you know, that you can't see the whole story. You can't see the big picture. Not all the information is in, but it sounds salacious and you know, so the news outlets, they run with it. And typically it's the small time news outlets. But every now and then, you know, some of the big carriers will play stuff, will run stuff. And if there's no blowback, I mean, if it's some poor schmuck sitting in jail, chances are you're probably not going to get any blowback from that, because they just don't have the means to be able to defend themselves. And it's just, you know, it's just a big shit fight. People throwing shit pies around, you know, because there's big money in it. You know, why else do we have Donald Trump in the Oval Office right now? Because he was the thing that people, you know, I mean, that's, and still to this day, if you, you know, every night on Stephen Colbert, all right, here we go. Late night, show me more, right? There's a Melania Trump thing. Woman on a bike, okay, right. Melania Trump. Celebrities give bribery, the old college tribe, bribery. Republican rebuke of the president. Rudy Giuliani, Trump, Speaker Pelosi. Okay, well, you know, Michael Cohen has to do with Trump. A denier is spearheading Trump. Meanwhile, the wearable penis camera. So, parlor jokes. New Trump. Tucker Carlson. So, you know, so, and, you know, that's his shtick. I mean, the guy's basically on the left, and that's cool. I get it. I like Stephen Colbert. He's, you know, he's talented. He's probably one of the most talented people I've ever seen. But I'm getting to the point where I'm like, you know, dude, we got any other material other than, I'm just saying, it's been a couple of years, and I'm like, every time I see this guy, it's Trump this and Trump that, and Manafort, and, you know, and Trump. And I'm like, dude, you got any other material? You got any other material? And it was like that on MSNBC, you know, with Rachel Maddow. And so, because he's the most salacious frickin' thing going. Meanwhile, there's other shit going on. Russia's big doomsday swindle. So this is an explanation of some of the misinformation that we see out there. It's about global warming and stuff like that. You know, there's big money out there to be made. So what he's saying here is that in order for, because it can be highly remunerative. You can get paid for being first to report on YouTube or whatever by building your audience. You can build your audience by being a scumbag. And it's a race to the bottom, right? And it's a big problem. Because at this point, nobody trusts any fucking news outlet, which actually is not bad. That's actually not a bad thing. Nobody trusts any news outlet, and nobody knows what's really going on. Nobody knows what's going on. It's like literally nobody knows what's going on. Where's the news, man? It's like, God, I just want to see some actual breaking news. I just want to know what's going on around the world. You know? And I started dabbling a little bit with that on my other channel. And you know what? Maybe that's what I should be doing, actually, come to think of it. Just basic stuff. I just want to see some basic stuff that's not Donald Trump. You know? I mean, goddamn. So, and he's saying basically what they do is they throw out the verify. So that the individual must verify the truth. Which is, you got to do that anyway. And that's my thinking about, you know, from my perspective, it's like, I tell people that. Maybe I should get a screenshot of this and remind people every time, okay, now, don't just listen to me, do your own research. I always say that repeatedly. Now you must verify the truth. You must always do your critical thinking. And that's where we are now, and that's really not, like I said, that's not a bad thing, because back in the 80s and in the 90s, when they really started this experiment with super editorialization, when they put it into equal time in broadcasting, where news outlets had to show, at least sort of pay lip service to showing a competing idea out there. They couldn't just be totally biased. Once they got rid of that that was back in the 80s, then you started seeing the Fox Newses and stuff like that, and the MSNBCs, where they were just totally biased one way or the other. And I got to say, MSNBC, depends on who it is. They can be pretty balanced. Fox can be pretty balanced from time to time. And they're not, it's not an all or nothing kind of thing. But back in the 80s, man, it was like they could just run over people. And did. And you have no recourse. They just put you in the meat grinder. Some people call it a pig fuck. Like in New York. New York politics can be brutal. And they call it a pig fuck. And you just get your reputation can just get steamrolled, and there's nothing you can do about it. But nowadays, people are starting to think about it, and that's actually really not a bad thing. And I don't really think it's a bad thing at all. That people really, every time you see something, you have to think, well, is this true, or is it bullshit? And you get to maybe verify it yourself. And now they have some means apparently to do that. And hashtag is this legit? And this is from @MediaWise. That's the tag @MediaWise, and I guess it's Twitter. And they'll help you figure it out. You can subscribe. I probably ought to do that too. I'm going to do that in a second. So this is Destin, and to get back to this, you must verify. And you know what? You must verify, and it's kind of like that's how it is, and it's tough shit. And yeah, it kind of rankles a little bit that you really gotta fact check the New York Times and stuff. But maybe you got to do your own thinking, and there's really no substitute for that. And but anyway, we're not really in it. This is not a bad time necessarily to be around, because people are people don't just blindly trust news services anymore. That's a good thing. It is, because the services that were blindly trusted before didn't always tell the truth, and the populace ended up believing things that weren't necessarily true. And we found out later on, years later, decades later, oh wow, it was really it was really a scam. We really got scammed, and we didn't know it until it was too late. It's happened repeatedly. So, if we could, the nice thing about the internet was that, sometimes you could actually find out what was really going on. And that's kind of what we lost. So that's the interesting part. We really lost being able to find out what was really going on from people out on the internet blowing the whistle. We kind of sort of had a little golden era there for a few years. And we kind of don't have that anymore. Man, it makes you think even maybe that was the idea anyway. All the fake news was just to get you to was just to sort of put a cork in that genie's bottle. This wonderful tool, the internet, that could have allowed people to really sort of figure out what was really going on, and to have pertinent discussions about things and get together on things. It's been turned into a weapon to divide people and blind people and really fog their minds. It's ingenious the way they've managed to do it. It's been turned from a blessing into a curse almost. And it almost looks as though people are out there trying to turn it back into a blessing. So that's all I got. And the link will be in the description for this. Why Your Newsfeed Sucks. Destin is doing a whole series, like I said, about the machinery that they're going to be using. And, I don't know how, I want to see the fine print on that. That Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and Google and everybody, they're going to be using to vet material or to do something, which is that's scary in and of itself. When you're talking about sources, Just because somebody doesn't have a PhD doesn't necessarily mean they don't know what they're talking about. Global warming is a very complicated topic, and many voices probably need to be heard about that. More on that later. And that's all I got. My name is R. Crosby Lyles. As always, you must verify. And I love you guys, and we're going to figure out what's going on. We're going to figure it out one day at a time, and it's going to be all right. Nothing to fear but fear itself. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you. Bye.